In a classroom full of graduate students, an 8-year-old boy suddenly appeared. No one was very interested in that day's lecture about perpetual motion engines. Only this boy was full of confidence and said that he could definitely build a perpetual motion engine. Returning to his own classroom, he almost drove the teacher crazy. It was just a simple homework assignment, yet Spivet expanded the topic and wrote an entire scientific report. When the teacher scolded him for going off topic and lacking scientific basis, the boy immediately took out a scientific journal and his report had already been published in it. The teacher once again angrily said that he was not only disrupting the class but had also worn mismatched socks, causing the whole class to burst into laughter and mock him. However, no one could have imagined that such a genius would be treated coldly by his family, because at home there was also a younger brother who was lively and adorable and loved by the whole family, especially the father, who favored the younger brother even more. In the father's eyes, Spivet was timid and clumsy, while the younger brother had inherited 100% of the father's genes and was good at both horse riding and shooting. Until one time when the two brothers were playing in the barn, the younger brother was fiddling with a gun and it went off, ending the boy's young life. After that, no one blamed Spivet, but no one ever mentioned the younger brother again even once, as if the boy had never existed. However, Spivet could clearly feel that the atmosphere in the family had become even stranger. The father, who was already a man of few words, became even more silent. The mother also devoted herself even more to her research, seemingly wanting to numb the pain in her heart with work. The sister was still the same as before, still indifferent to him. All of this caused Spivet, who had an extremely sensitive soul, great pain, but he did not know how to express what he felt and could only work even harder on his research. That day, he received a phone call from a famous scientific association saying that his perpetual motion engine design had won the association's most prestigious award and inviting him to attend the award ceremony next week in Washington. Spivet hurriedly told his sister the good news, but she thought he was bragging and warned him not to lie anymore. Spivet was extremely disappointed. He thought he would receive the same reaction from his parents, especially since he had carefully prepared a 3D model to help his father solve the water shortage problem on the farm, but his father ignored it completely. That made him even more certain that his parents would not be happy about him winning the award. However, he very much wanted to interact more deeply with many outstanding figures in the academic world. Therefore, in extreme conflict and pain, he decided to go alone to the other side of the country, Washington, to attend the award ceremony. So that evening he made a meticulous travel plan and secretly arranged the tools he needed: a thermometer, a hygrometer, and a barometer, 3 red sweaters, 2 nautical hexagonal glasses, 8 pairs of underwear,
binoculars, my Leatherman, 1 tape measure, a self-defense handbook, 1 box of raisins, only 1 telescope, 12 handkerchiefs.
After preparing everything, he dragged the heavy suitcase downstairs. However, this was the first time the boy Spivet had traveled far alone, so his heart was still heavy with attachment to his home. The boy walked into his younger brother's room, and an endless sadness rose in his heart. He said goodbye to Layton because he would have to go to Washington for a period of time and at the same time promised Layton that he would bring back a souvenir. He also confessed that he deeply regretted what had happened before. After that, the boy quietly said farewell to everyone in the family. He went to every corner of the house to say goodbye to his beloved family, and then wrote a letter telling everyone not to worry about him. Before leaving, Spivet secretly took his mother's diary so that he would not feel too lonely on the journey. In the chilly air of the early morning, the cold seeped into the boy's small body. Pulling a large piece of luggage behind him, he began the first long journey of his life. Before he had gone very far, his father's car suddenly came from behind. Spivet thought his father would take him back, but unexpectedly, the car passed him and sped away. Spivet felt empty inside. He thought this must be the punishment his father had given him. Perhaps he had to take responsibility for the death of the son his father loved the most, and he was destined to be expelled from this ranch. The only question was whether it would happen sooner or later. In order to hitch a ride on the train, Spivet even painted the signal light red, causing the train to obediently stop. Before the driver could fully understand the situation, the boy hurriedly and secretly placed his suitcase onto the train. But when the boy was about to climb onto the train, a patrol police officer discovered him. He tried to crawl under the train to hide, but unexpectedly, the train started moving at that very moment. The boy knew he could not sit still and wait to be caught, so he desperately crawled out, climbed onto a conveyor belt, and fell straight into the work site. The boy saw countless mountains and rivers, as well as all kinds of flowers, birds, and ornamental fish he had never seen before. The world that had once appeared in textbooks and on television gradually unfolded before his eyes. The boy jumped up, cheering with excitement, as if his heart had also become broader. However, the police along the route had already received a report, so every time the train arrived at a station, they conducted very strict searches. In panic, Spivet hid inside a motorhome that had been shipped on the train. When the police came to inspect, the boy hurriedly pretended to be a display model. The mucus slowly running from his nose made the police suspicious, but fortunately the whistle of the train starting interrupted his thoughts. Because of that, Spivet escaped danger. As the train continued moving, the distance between the boy and his home grew farther and farther. On the way, the boy met a strange old man who told him a fairy tale about a sparrow. Long ago, there was a sparrow that was about to freeze to death in winter, so it asked many large trees for help. In the end, only a pine tree was willing to shelter it from the cold wind and helped it survive the long winter. This moved the creator, so the creator punished the other trees. When winter came, the other trees would lose all their leaves, while only the pine tree could keep its green color. The old man originally wanted to convey to Spivet the importance of helping each other, but unexpectedly the boy coldly said that this story was false. Although the story was very good and meaningful, scientifically the insulating ability of pine leaves could not possibly be enough to create a warm nest for a bird as large as a sparrow. The boy bluntly told him that his grandmother had deceived him. Someone who lacked love from childhood like Spivet seemed to have become used to analyzing this world with reason. Instead of words of encouragement, Spivet longed more for a hot and fragrant hot dog, because he had not eaten anything for a long time. However, unexpectedly, he ran into two police officers holding a photo and searching for someone. Fortunately, he had changed his hairstyle, so he did not attract the attention of the police. However, the girl selling hot dogs recognized him. She advised the boy that running away from home like this would make his mother unhappy. But right after that, she immediately changed her words and said that if the boy decided to eat a hot dog now, he would not want to eat dinner later. Spivet suddenly replied that he did not have a mother. Both his father and mother were already gone. This was the first time Spivet had lied in his life. He felt extremely guilty, and when he passed a phone booth, he could not help but call home. On the other end of the line, when everyone heard that the caller was Spivet, they were all overjoyed and breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that the boy had not been kidnapped, and this was clearly an extremely fortunate thing for the whole family. At this moment, his mother hurriedly admitted that her son was right when he said that she should not waste time researching tiger beetles. His father also admitted that the family's small river had a problem, and that the boy's water diversion system was a very wonderful invention. He advised Spivet to come back and they would work on it together. At this moment, the boy's sister also hurriedly grabbed the phone and told him to come back quickly to help her make a Halloween costume. Everyone was hoping for his return. However, in reality, Spivet had not made that phone call, and all of it was only the boy's beautiful imagination. He felt that between himself and his family there always seemed to be a thin curtain that could not be pierced, making them together yet never truly able to enter each other's hearts. Just like that, Spivet completely fell into a state of depression. He deeply envied children who did not have to leave home alone, and envied families filled with love and understanding under warm lights. He was clearly only a 10-year-old child, yet he had already understood the true meaning of loneliness and the hardship of wandering alone. To release his emotions, for the first time Spivet took out his mother's diary. Looking at the familiar photos, his frozen heart finally received a trace of warmth. As he continued turning the pages, the boy finally understood his mother's feelings. It turned out that his mother was not cold as she appeared. She often habitually called his younger brother to wake up and then became absent-minded when she realized it. She could feel the sadness in Spivet's heart and had many times wanted to find the boy and talk with him seriously, but she did not know how to begin. She even often doubted whether Spivet still loved her as his mother, because he would rather play on the seesaw alone than ever go to her for comfort. When he continued reading, the emptiness in Spivet's heart seemed to be filled much more, and in constant anticipation, he arrived in a world of steel, filled with sharp edges. He secretly slipped off the train and only carried some important items. He hid the rest of his luggage and desperately ran away while being chased by the police.
Are you shitting me, Stitch?
Property, you said priority.
When he reached a gate, the police finally stopped. The officer thought Spivet had no way to escape, but in the next second he jumped straight to the other side of the gate. The police immediately shouted in panic for him to hold on tightly and be careful not to fall. Then the officer encouraged him not to look down and to try climbing to the top of the gate. In the end, Spivet finally managed to climb up. Although he had escaped the danger and climbed to the other side, several of his ribs were broken.
Oh, well done! Hey, over here! Listen, Stitch, look at me.
The severe pain tormented the boy terribly. However, the passing cars would not stop to help him until he was almost unable to endure any longer when a huge truck stopped in front of him.
Where you headed for like this, man?
The driver immediately asked where he was going. He replied that he wanted to go to the Smithsonian Institution. The driver was surprised when he heard the answer. He then said that he wanted to go to Washington. The driver signaled for Spivet to get into the truck and kindly reminded him to fasten his seatbelt. But Spivet was in so much pain that he could not move, so the driver immediately guessed that he had broken ribs and advised him to see a doctor right away. However, Spivet was afraid that the doctor would hand him over to the police, and the police would immediately send him back home, so he could only endure it silently. The driver really liked taking photographs. He pasted all the photos of people who had ever hitched rides with him inside the truck. Each person had a unique story, making this small cab like a miniature cinema filled with different lives. While Spivet was sleeping, the driver secretly took a photo together with the boy. At that moment, Spivet woke up and asked where they had arrived. The driver cheerfully replied that it was not far anymore. Spivet hurriedly looked out the window and indeed saw the old Smithsonian Institution not far away. The driver did not know what he was looking for, but do not forget one thing: the road is under your feet. The driver wished him good luck. I do not know where you will go, but you will find your place.
Sure what you're looking for, but don't change a thing. Steady in your boots. Good luck, man.
The entire hall was filled with an artistic atmosphere, making Spivet even more excited about this trip. But when the receptionist learned that the legendary genius was a child, her first reaction was to think that the boy was lying. However, out of politeness, she still called the vice director.
You're T.S. Spivet, or your father is T.S. Spivet?
The vice director also thought this was a joke. After all, such a profound perpetual motion engine had puzzled countless brilliant scholars. So how could it possibly have been invented by a child? The vice director said, did he want her to believe that he had invented a magnetic wheel? He replied, not exactly, because he had not invented anything. He said he had only modified the principle of electrons orbiting a nucleus through gravitational force. But to achieve a similar perpetual process, it would require creating negative entropy. This is impossible. He asked whether the vice director agreed with this. The vice director looked at the child in front of her in great shock, as if she had just discovered a rare treasure that appears once in 1,000 years. The vice director hurriedly took Spivet to see a doctor, and then eagerly took him to study his brain. The whole process was so science fiction-like that the boy seemed to see his younger brother who had passed away long ago. The younger brother said that now the boy was like a laboratory mouse being studied. That afternoon deeply hurt Spivet's inner feelings. But in order to borrow the power of others to realize his great ideal, he had no choice but to continue enduring it. The research results showed that Spivet's brain activity far exceeded that of ordinary people, even capable of alternating between one half resting and one half working like a dolphin. After hearing this, the vice director was even more delighted, as if she had found gold. She quickly disguised Spivet as an adult and eagerly wanted to introduce him to more people. The people attending the party quickly surrounded Spivet as if they were admiring an invaluable treasure. But Spivet used this opportunity to notice the difference between a fake smile and a genuine smile. When smiling falsely, not only do the cheek muscles contract, but the muscles around the eyes also contract involuntarily. And tonight all the smiles were the kind where both the muscles around the eyes and the cheek muscles contracted. Soon after, Spivet was invited onto the stage to speak. Looking at the unfamiliar faces below made the boy extremely nervous, as if the whole world had slowed down. The people called academic celebrities at this moment did not shine because of their knowledge, but instead shone because of the jewelry they wore. The entire hall was frighteningly silent. After a cautious greeting and self-introduction, Spivet finally began his speech. He said that everyone present here had at least a doctoral degree, while he was only an elementary school student, so he had no profound knowledge to present. He only wanted to say 3 things. First, he was very grateful that everyone had not cancelled the award because of his young age. Second, the magnetic wheel he designed was not actually a perpetual motion engine in the literal sense because many parts inside were made of magnets. Therefore, over time, it would stop rotating after about 400 years due to the loss of magnetism. For the time scale of human beings, 400 years seems very long, but for the geological era, it is only a grain of sand in the ocean. Therefore, we still have a long way to go before reaching a true perpetual motion engine. The boy's speech was extremely calm and clear, moving everyone present. Of course, they also knew that at the current stage no one could create a true perpetual motion engine, but Spivet's idea had truly brought completely new thinking. For the third point, Spivet said that the real purpose of this trip was to save his family that was on the verge of falling apart. Standing on the stage, the boy began to tell the story of his family's loss. His younger brother Layton had shot himself in the barn. No one mentioned this. No one said that Layton had shot himself in the barn. No one at all. Layton and Spivet always had many differences. Spivet liked doing his experiments. Layton liked using his Winchester rifle to shoot empty cans and shoot wolves. So Spivet came up with an idea to create a sound wave chart of gunshots so the two brothers could play together. Layton would shoot the gun and he would collect the data. Then one of Layton's Winchester rifles jammed. He helped hold the stock. He did not even touch the trigger. Then there was a gunshot. Layton flew across the barn, blood dripping onto the pile of hay. Layton lay there and was no longer his younger brother. He was left alone. He ran to the ranch to find his father and told him that Layton was badly hurt. After hearing this, his father's face tightened and he rushed away. He stood there not knowing where to go. Then he ran into the house and hid in the bathroom. He heard his father talking on the phone, and then he saw an ambulance without its lights on arrive outside the window. After a while, his sister Gracie came and held him and cried. The two of them stayed there for a long time, lying on the floor without saying anything. Spivet's story made everyone fall silent. They had never imagined that this small genius had gone through such painful events. So everyone stood up and applauded the boy, hoping to soothe his wounded heart. When the vice director saw everyone's strong reaction, she immediately became excited and hurried onto the stage to hug the boy. In the vice director's eyes, Spivet was not only a rare genius, but also an ATM that could bring enormous profits to her and the institute. But no one noticed that behind the lively crowd, a familiar figure was quietly watching from a distance, and it was Spivet's mother. In order to take advantage of this wave of fame for greater profit, the vice director took Spivet to take photos for magazines and participate in interview programs. The academic discussions that Spivet had hoped for never came. Instead, the boy had to endure the pain in his ribs while repeatedly saying polite phrases, and he soon realized that compared with the perpetual motion engine, the hosts seemed more interested in the story about his younger brother.
You've been conducting scientific experiments since the age of 4. Last year, one of those went tragically wrong and resulted in the death of your twin brother, Layton.
They even secretly invited his mother to the studio in order to create tearful scenes for the program. The host wanted to guide the mother into saying touching words, but after watching Spivet's speech, the mother only wanted to soothe the boy's wounded heart. She asked Spivet whether he had secretly read her diary. The boy immediately apologized to his mother. Spivet's mother asked him whether giving a gun to a child as a gift was wrong, or letting 2 children play with a gun in the barn without supervision, and whether he thought that was right. At this moment, the mother said that it was not the boy's fault, and it was not anyone's fault. It was only an accident, and just as his father had once said, what has happened has already happened, and mentioning it again cannot change anything. The accident of his younger brother had always been the biggest knot in Spivet's heart. Now hearing his mother say with her own words that it was not his fault, the grievance in his heart burst out like a flood, causing him to rush into his mother's arms despite the live broadcast. The mother did not want to continue letting her family's emotions be used in front of the camera, so she immediately took the boy away from the stage. But the greedy film crew quickly brought their cameras and chased after them, wanting to continue exploiting useful material. The vice director also rushed out to stop them but was slapped by the mother. The host still wanted to stop the mother and son, but at that moment the father also appeared in front of them. The father did not pay attention to the host lying on the ground and bent down to say very seriously to Spivet that the most important thing was that he was safe. The father gently told him that he had heard that he said he no longer had a father, and that truly made him very sad. Spivet then also apologized to his father. The father had never not loved his son Spivet. It was only because he was too intelligent, and the father himself was not good with words, so he could not find many common points with him. The boy asked his father why he did not stop the car that morning when he saw him leaving. The father's reason was very simple, because at that moment he was bending down to pick something up and did not see the boy at all. So sometimes, what is called conflict is only a collection of misunderstandings, and for them, reconciliation between father and son came so easily and naturally. The 3 of them walked toward the door together, gradually stepping into the light. Returning to that remote ranch, everything seemed unchanged. Spivet continued his research. His mother still had headaches because of cooking, and the bread machines kept breaking one after another. His father was still away from home all day, and his sister was still practicing for a beauty pageant. But everything also seemed no longer the same as before. After the knots in their hearts were untied, the love between the family members seemed to become gentler and deeper. The mother carried another small life within her again, the very embodiment of love.
It's a diction exercise, moron.
Yeah, or in the running for Miss Montana. If or when your father is showing up for breakfast.
Guys still haven't made up?
I thought you were going to give birth in the kitchen again.
You can.
So, as an older brother, Spivet invented a special perpetual motion device, an automatic cradle. The sound of the machine vibrating blended with the gentle wind to form a loving lullaby, nurturing a new life. The film ends here. This is not a fairy tale about a child prodigy, nor is it a legendary story about a young scientist. It is only the process of gradually accepting a painful reality that cannot be avoided. The small figure, wearing a cowboy hat, has always remained deep in the hearts of every family member. Even though everyone silently understood not to mention it anymore, the cracks and pain in their hearts continued to grow. The small Spivet stubbornly blamed himself for the accident of his younger brother. The burden of guilt was too great for a child, like a huge monster occupying his heart, so heavy that he could not face it and could not speak of it. Because of that, even at the moment of glory when receiving the award, he did not feel any joy. For him, that honor was only an opportunity to escape. Escape from the suffocating atmosphere of the family, and escape from the torment of self-blame. So he dragged a suitcase heavier than himself onto the transcontinental train. The rails stretched toward a distant and unknown place. He vaguely saw the figure of his younger brother wearing a cowboy hat sitting across from him, accompanying him through this escape. It was on this lonely journey, in the repeated struggle between longing and regret, that his chaotic heart gradually began to understand. The final destination of this dusty journey was not the Golden Award stage, not a meeting at the White House, and certainly not the vanity of becoming an educational model. What he sought after, traveling thousands of miles, was only an exit, a chance to speak the hidden truth about that day. Under the dazzling stage lights, it became a place where he could release his regret and endless longing for his younger brother before the whole world. Of course, the world is not a place of complete redemption. When someone tried to turn his scars into a spectacle, and his heart-rending remorse into a publicity trick, he was still only a child with no ability to resist. Fortunately, the mother, who had also sunk into the pain of losing a child and chosen to hide in the world of insects to numb herself, finally broke out of her cocoon. With her warm embrace, Spivet finally understood that the true turning point began when the name no one dared to mention, and the deeply hidden wounds, were gently touched and seen. Forgiveness and comfort are not instant miracles, but the foundation stones built little by little after facing the ruins together, with no way to turn back. The past we try to bury has never truly disappeared. Like underground currents, it quietly seeps through and shapes our present lives. Instead of letting it ferment in the darkness and distort reality, we should bravely pull it out from the hidden corner into the sunlight and say a complete farewell. This is not to forget, but to understand, to let go, and to turn that heavy love and pain into strength. Cherish the people who are with us now and live fully in the moment, because only when we face the abyss can we truly turn away from it and embrace the life that still has light. Today's story ends here. Thank you for watching the film. If you enjoyed it, please give a like and subscribe to support us. Goodbye and see you again.